Colleagues, good afternoon. Today we have several issues to discuss, including migration, but I'd like to start with a different subject, something that is exclusively and very important for our national interests and the sovereignty of Russia, and ensuring international security in general. It's no exaggeration. I'm talking about strategic stability. The current situation is sadly continuing to deteriorate, which is caused by a combined effect of multiple factors of a negative character, of provoking new risks that are strategic in nature. As a result of a number of rather destructive steps by Western countries, the foundation of constructive relations was undermined, and the practical cooperation between nuclear states was weakened. The basis for dialogue on a bilateral and a multilateral basis was eroded. Step by step, the system of Soviet-American and Russian-American agreements on nuclear and strategic missile control was essentially disbanded. These are the owners of two largest nuclear arsenals, and this situation has a bearing on the global security as well. The reasons and the possible consequences of this situation have been mentioned time and again. The strategic risks that have accumulated since the start of the century are due to the actions of the West. They're destabilizing doctrines and strategic military programs aimed at disrupting global parity and an attempt to obtain absolute dominance. We have dwelled on this in detail, criticizing this position, underscoring the utmost danger of further escalation, and have also proposed concrete ideas on joint actions to remediate the situation. But our proposals and our initiatives did not meet with a response, a coherent response at any rate. Once again, Russia is able to respond to any arising threats, not just in word, but through strategic action. Our decision to lift the unilateral moratorium on deploying land-based intermediate-range missiles was a forced step dictated by the necessity to respond to the programs to deploy similar weapons in Europe and the Asia-Pacific, manufactured by Europe and the United States. It directly threatened Russian security. Our plans to boost our strategic defense capabilities are considering the changing situation in the world and are implemented in the planned manner in full. We are confident that these plans are effective. At the same time, it is not in our interests to see an increased tension and an arms race. Russia has always assumed that political and diplomatic means of sustaining global peace must be a priority, based on mutual equality, mutual consideration of interests, equality, and taking into account each other's interests. The signing of the Russian-American Treaty on Strategic Offensive Arms, signed in 2010, was an important step, but due to the hostile policies pursued by the Biden administration, which disrupted the basic tenets on which that treaty was based, its full-scale implementation was suspended in 2023. However, both parties said that they are willing voluntarily to maintain the central quantitative lemitations in strategic offensive arms until the life cycle of the treaty is complete. As a result, for almost 15 years, that treaty is playing a significant positive role in sustaining the balance of forces and providing predictability in the strategic offensive sphere. On the 5th of February 2026, that treaty will have run its course. That means that the last direct restrictions on offensive and nuclear potential will be lifted. A full removal of such limitations would not be a reasonable step. It would have a negative influence on the goals of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. In order to avoid a further escalation of the arms race and to provide a level of predictability and a reservation, we believe it is justified to maintain during this current turbulent stage the status quo. And so Russia is willing to continue for 1 year to maintain the central quantitative limitations under that treaty after the current treaty is terminated. As a result, we will make further decisions later on in accordance with the situation, and we believe that stability is only possible if the United States act in a similar manner and do not make steps that would undermine or disrupt the current balance of deterrence potential. In this regard, I would instruct all the relevant authorities to monitor the situation, especially with regard to the strategic offensive weapons capabilities, and also the deterrence potential of missile systems, including preparations for deploying space interception systems. We believe that such destabilizing actions, if prepared further, could annul the efforts made by our country to uphold the status quo in the area of strategic offensive capabilities. I believe that the Russian initiative could be a significant contribution in establishing a good atmosphere for a substantive strategic dialogue with the United States. If the conditions for its full-scale restoration are provided, and considering the entire range of bilateral efforts, it could lead to the removal of fundamental contradictions in security. Now let's go over to the daily agenda. Mr. Lavrov, please.
Stay informed on the world's shifting power. Subscribe to the Watchtower Report, where strategy meets reality.